beautiful day on the water here in central North Carolina, and we're going to do a Brunswick stew. Today is Easter Sunday, and you're about to learn how you do it right, North Carolina style. We're going to cook a Brunswick stew on an open fire in a Dutch oven. So hold on, you're going to see some great stuff. We're going to let this oak wood cook on down to nothing but nice hot coals and get it ready for the Dutch oven. We'll have some stew going here in a little bit, won't we, baby girl? So while the fire is getting ready to cook down at the coals, we're back in the kitchen doing a little bit of the prep work. And you can see that exactly 20 ingredients that are going to go in today's North Carolina Brunswick stew. You got fresh chicken, pulled pork from a previous whole hog barbecue that we did for my wife's retirement party. We got a top sirloin steak and something very special here that most people will probably never get a chance to enjoy. This is moose meat, straight from Alaska. And the typical ingredients that you have in a Brunswick stew, but I like to add one extra in mine, which is black-eyed peas. You don't have to put black-eyed peas in yours, just know that yours won't be as good as mine. Now we're going to go ahead and make our seasonings. You can do this the hard way and shake it over the fire, or you can go ahead and prep it up, and this will be show you also how you can make a good dry rub for any of the things you want to do, like a Boston butt or maybe even wings. So we're going to do about a handful or maybe a teaspoon, because that's about the same. We've got some garlic powder. You can see that's about that. We've got some smoked paprika. It's a whole lot easier to prep this and get it ready than it is to do trying to over a hot fire. This just happens to be a little bit of leftover wild tree red bell pepper and garlic blend. Cumin, got to have some cumin, and you can see there's not much left in this, so we're just going to go ahead and put it all in there. Very important to get your chili powder. I like to put some basil leaves, and you can see there's not much left in here, so we're just going to go ahead and put all of that in there and use it up. Some good quality salt. You can use sea salt or any other kind of salt, but I do not like to use salt that contains iodine. And then I am a huge lover of black pepper. You cannot have too much black pepper to suit me, but for some folks may not like it that much. We're going to stick with a handful. Now, there you have it. Everything combined into one. And if you shake it together, you got yourself a nice dry rub that you can use on lots of different things. You can use this on wings, you can use this on ribs. And this is how, folks, how you save a lot of money and how you make your own dry rub. Alright folks, we've moved outside. We've got the fire good and ready and the coals are looking great. And we've moved all our ingredients outside. We're going to be opening up all our vegetables here. One quick update to what you saw earlier on in the kitchen. There's a couple ingredients that we're missing. We've got to make sure you add plenty of good corn and limas. Absolutely a must for Brunswick stew. We've put our dry rub here, and I've also added two special ingredients. We're going to finish up what's left of this ketchup. This will really help sweeten up and cut the acids from all of this tomato sauce. And then this is something you can pick up at the dollar store, but any kind of barbecue sauce of your choice. We're going to put a little bit of that in there. It's going to have a little bit of hickory smoked flavor. plus we'll add to the smoke we're going to pick up from the charcoal. And in honor of our good friends and family in Alaska who provided us with this delicacy right here, this is some stew meat from a moose. So shout out to our friends and family in Alaska. Roger and Mona, thank you very much. I'm going to do it right with this Alaskan ulu that we bought at the ulu store in Anchorage on our last trip to Alaska. So if you ever find yourself in Anchorage, make sure you go by the ulu store and pick yourself up one of these. Great for chopping. Whether you want to, we're going to chop up some onion here. You can do nuts with it. Obviously, you can fillet an entire moose with this thing. So a great tool to have. We've got our chicken pulled right out of the broth, and we've got that ready to go. We'll add that in later. It's very important in the order that we're going to do things. We watched a lot of YouTube videos of people who just say, you know what, we're going to dump it all in a pot and see what happens. I'm very peculiar about this piece. We're going to get a really good hot sear on both this steak and our moose. Now, if you don't have moose, of course, you can use any kind of beef that you would like. We're going to slice this up real thin. We're going to get a good hot sear. We'll show you that in a minute. And then after that, we will add in all our other ingredients. But we really want to make sure we get a good crisp char on some of that meat that's really going to bring out the flavor. You can see a good ulu will make short work of anything. You can put your entire moose with these, and this is what the native Alaskans actually use. We're going to work this up into smaller chunks, and then we're going to save a couple of these that we're going to put on a spit and roast over the fire. That will not go in the stew. That is the cook's treat. So out by the fire pit, and this is what you get if you send 2 sons and a wife through ECU. You get this $100,000 beer huggy. We got the fire hot, we got the skillet hot, and we're cubed up our moose meat, our sirloin steak, and our onions on the trusty ulu, and all of that is going straight in to get that good sizzle we talked about. Just listen to that sound. We're going to put in some of our seasoning we talked about earlier. And we're going to give it a good stir. This was recently handed me down to me just this very day on Easter Sunday from my beloved father-in-law. This stir stick has been in his family for at least 40 years. It has stirred many a catfish stew, Brunswick stew, and we're going to carry on the tradition today. But I can tell you that it is the first time that it has ever stirred moose. We're going to get that good and crisped up, and then we will add it in our chicken and our stock and all our vegetables. After that, it'll be sit back, stir every few minutes, listen to some good music, drink your favorite beverage, whether it might be wine or iced tea or cold beer or maybe even some bourbon. And once we get her stirred up, you might, if you're willing and able, you might even get your old trusty guitar out and play a few chords while she simmers. And you can see how quickly that gets ready to go. We did season the pot, where we did add some oil, so we got some canola oil in here. You could have used anything you want. Old timers would have used lard or bacon grease. You could have used olive oil. I happen to have some canola oil, so that's what we use. But you do need to add some oil. And you want to stir it with something wooden, or if you can't have that, maybe plastic. But you don't want to stir it with metal because you don't want to scrape the seasoning off of your seasoned cast iron. That's why when we do this on a bigger scale, and we use actual cauldron, we would stir it with a boat paddle. You cannot have a varnished boat paddle. You need to actually have it just down to the bare wood. You do not want any varnish coming off in anything that you cook, as varnish is a chemical. This has been well seasoned for many decades. I would imagine this was probably built back in the 80s. So I appreciate my father-in-law letting me use it today. And to pay my respects for that, he will be getting some of this delicious stew. This stew never ever lasts very long. It does freeze extremely well, but most times there's not any left to freeze. It's a great fall tradition to cook a Brunswick stew. Even though we're doing one here on Easter, it probably won't last more than 2 days once we get it all cooked up, and everybody that ever gets a bowl comes back for more and asks to take some home. Alright, as you can tell, we are ready because the onions are translucent and the mousse is on the loose, so it's ready to add in our ingredients. We're now going to be able to taste all these tasty morsels, and we're going to start putting in our vegetables, and we're going to add in our chicken stock. We don't need to go in any particular order, but we're going to first throw in some diced potatoes. We like to use the water from that because it's going to give it some good flavor. Our butter beans, also want to use the juices from all of these cans, because each one of them is going to impart some wonderful flavor. Here we go with our first tomato sauce. Ooh, that's smoky good. Next, well, there's another tomato sauce. Very important. I have at least 2 of those. Now we're going to put in our black-eyed peas. That's my secret sauce there. A lot of people that you'll see on YouTube, they don't put that on there. And like I said earlier, you don't have to put black-eyed peas in yours. It just won't be as good as mine. There's our diced. Put out our limas. They're frozen, but they won't be frozen long. Back of corn. Didn't get all those limas, let's take them out. Now we're going to add in our chicken stock to the rest of this. I see a lot of people on YouTube, they're having to continually add cold water to their stew because it dries out. And every time you do that, you're watering it down. That's why it's very important to save your chicken stock. You can see right there in this pot right here, all that golden goodness on top. Every one of those beautiful little bubbles is chicken fat. And that is extremely important to your flavor profile. We've got this added up. We've got our mousse, our steak, our translucent onions. Now we're going to add in this beautiful chicken stock. And when you put all this together, you'll look at it and you'll say, there's no way that all the ingredients are going to go into that Dutch oven, but they will. Now, if you ever get the chance and you're in the store, it's much easier to buy these type of cans that open right here, especially if you're going to do them fireside. You don't have to manually hand crank them. But today this is the only can that we got lucky enough to have the pull top on. And then we got a little bit more seasoning we're going to put in here. We'll save some to add later to taste. We'll give that a good stir. Put the lid on, and we'll come back and check it in about 15-20 minutes. Alright, one last thing we're going to do here is we're going to chop up some of this wonderful pulled pork that was part of my wife's lovely retirement party. And I got to give a shout out to my good friend Rodney, who let us use his pig cooker. We cooked a 135-pound whole hog and fed probably 60-75 people that night. So we got to give a shout out to my brother from another mother, Rodney. They call him in the hood, they call him Popo Rowe. So appreciate you, Popo Rowe. Gonna give this a good chop. Just throw it in there with this chicken. So now you've got pulled pork, pulled chicken, red meat. You got your sirloin steak and the rare treat from our wonderful friends Roger and Mona. Love you, miss you. Can't wait to get back up there to see you again. And we're gonna add our moose meat. Now we're gonna add in all of this pulled pork, this pulled chicken, and this kielbasa. In she goes. Give it a stir. Got a good simmer going. I'll leave the lid off for a little bit so it'll reduce some of that broth cooked down. And as legend has it, when this paddle stands up on its own, it's nice and thick, you are ready to eat. Technically everything at this point is fully cooked, so you can sample it all you want to. But it's best served after all of these flavors mold into one. She's brimming to the top with goodness. We're going to give it one last dash of that seasoning on top and let that stuff simmer in. And the sun's going down on us here on Easter Sunday. One advantage of this is that you got a little bit of daylight left because it's daylight savings time. If you're doing this in the fall, you want to start a little bit earlier or you'll be stirring well into the dark. But stirring's half the fun. Hanging out by the fire pit with your friends and family or your neighbors, I promise you, if you invite them over or offer some of this stew, they'll come running. Friend or foe, they'll eat this. That's a reminder, just everybody needs to get along. Love thy neighbor, that's what you're supposed to be doing, especially here on Easter Sunday. So you make this big old pot, you got to share it with some people. Maybe somebody you don't even see eye to eye with, but this will bring you together. And if you break bread together, you're usually a lot more friendly to one another and willing to consider the other person's point of view. Alright, that is it except for what we said we were going to do. We were going to add a little barbecue sauce. That's about that much, which if I was guessing I would say is a 1/4 cup, and about the same on some ketchup. That's just going to give it a little bit of sweetness and cut some of those acids down. A little bit more seasoning since we got all that in there soaking it up. Now we just sit back and stir. I bet you can smell it right through the camera, can't you? I know you wish you were here. If I was you, I would want to be me too. Is that a song? So like I said, the cook gets the best pieces. We put a little bit of this prime Alaskan moose meat on a spit and put it over our coals here and let her saute. Man, I wish you could taste this, but all you're gonna get to do is look at it. We're almost done here though. We've been stirring probably about an hour and a half. You can see it's thickening up really nice. The chicken and the pork are all really stringy. It's breaking down just like you want it. You still got some nice chunks, so when you bite into it, it's not just all minced up. I've had several Brunswick stews from different parts of the country. Georgia and Virginia, of course, like to argue and fight over who invented it. That's up to them to figure out. But I've watched some folks who run all this basically through a grinder. It basically turns it into a baby food consistency. So I'd rather have mine with some nice chunks in it, so you can see that kielbasa in there. You can see all the different tender cuts of meat. And she's definitely ready to serve, but I'm going to let it thicken up probably just another 30 minutes to where this paddle will probably practically stand up on its own. It's almost ready. She's almost there. It's getting sundown and time to eat. Now we're going to give the test. She's reduced down nice and thick. You can see almost all of our coals are gone, but it's still plenty hot. Let's stick this paddle in here. Not quite. Maybe just another 5 minutes, but when it sets up, it'll set up quick and you'll be ready to go. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to overcook it. And you certainly don't want to scorch it, so you keep it moving just nice and slow. She's standing up on her own, folks. She's ready to go. We're going to get us some bowls. We're going to plate this stuff up and we're going to let you know how it tastes. Be right back. Here we go, folks. We're going to put some of this in a bowl. You can serve this with cornbread, corn dodgers, hush puppies, any kind of bread you want. But I promise you, it doesn't need a thing. We're going to take this over to the picnic table, where I have picked my wife a fresh bouquet of dogwood flowers, just like the song says. Since it's Easter Sunday, we're going to have us a sunset picnic right over there. All right, folks, it is the moment we've been waiting for. Time for the taste test. Here we go, we're going in. We got a fresh cup of wine for the spousal unit and a fresh cup of ice cold water with our Ouray Colorado cup. Can't wait to get back there. Here we go. That's good. Mighty fine. I know you were wishing you could be here with me, with my noisy neighbors. Canadian geese are coming in for the evening. But if you watch this video carefully, you can do this in your own backyard. You don't have to have a fire pit. You can do it on a gas grill. You can do it over a propane cooker, or you can even do it on a cooktop inside your kitchen. But there's nothing like cooking outdoors. It makes the food taste better, it makes your appetite stronger, and it's just been a beautiful day out here by the water on Easter Sunday. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Now go you try it yourself. I hope yours is as good as mine. Take care.